Good morning, learners. Welcome to the second lecture of the course Gender and Performance, an Indian Perspective. Today, we shall be discussing origin of theatre in India. And in this module, we will cover the genesis of theatre in India, Rasa theory and Natya Shastra. We will also discuss Sanskrit theatre with certain examples, and we will learn how to analyze these plays in different ways. So let us move ahead and learn how drama has been interpreted and what is the origin of it. Lokasya Charitam. This quotation comes from Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. It's a composition, one of the oldest composition written in around 1st century BC. And here, when the disciples of Bharata asked him, what is the subject matter of drama? Bharat responded, it is Lokasya Charitam. It is about life and it covers all the complexity of life. There is no act, no maxim, no aspect, no character, no human being, no situation existing which cannot be covered as a subject matter of drama. That is why drama is a larger platform that includes everything in it. And that's how he responded. Lokasya stand for all, the commoners, the human beings. So it could be story of anyone. It could be the life of anyone that can form a plot of drama, and that is how Bharat Muni defines it. Moving ahead, in order to understand the plays, we need to look into certain theories. And one of the foremost theory provided by Bharat Muni is Rasa theory. What is Rasa theory? Rasa theory deals with the aesthetics of drama, the emotional aspect, and how to interpret the drama aesthetically. That answer is given when Rasa theory describes it. Bharat Muni says that which is relished, he says that which is relished is rasa, which can be tasted, which can be enjoyed. Something which can be cherished is rasa. And how it can be applied on text and how to interpret text from that perspective. He further says that rasa refers to the delightful experience of a work of art. If a work of art is not understood and if an emotion is not derived, if it is not able to produce a particular kind of emotion based on the plot and structure of the text, then the text, the stage performance has no relevance. It fails to connect with the people without the experience of it, without the experience of the emotions. It fails to connect. So, here we find that various critiques after Bharat Muni had tried to interpret the Rasa theory, and various works are available, including the critics like Bhattanayak, Bhattalolat, Shankuka and Abhinav Gupta. Abhinav Gupta is one of the leading critique who interpreted Rasa theory and explained Rasa Sutra. Now first of all, we will know how to explain Rasa Sutra. The sutra is Vibhavanubhava Vyabhichari Samyogat Rasa Nishpatti, which means when Vibhav is combined with Anubhav, Vyabhichari Bhav, and Sthai Bhav, the permanent state or permanent psychological state, then rasa is produced. Vibhav, the determinant the reason of arousal of a particular emotion or a mood, that is vibhav, anubhav, that carries forward the emotion, vyabhichari bhav, that momentarily ripples like a supplementary emotion and it disappears temporarily. After some time it disappears. So when vibhava, anubhava and vyabhichari bhava are combined with sthai bhava, which is a durable psychological state, the rasa is produced. And 8 types of rasa are mentioned in Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. There is a controversy also. The controversy is that whether there are 8 rasas given by Bharat Muni or 9. But when we read the critiques who tried to interpret and researched on Rasa Sutra and Bharat Muni's rasa theory, we find that Bharat Muni talked about 8 rasas only, and the 9th one, that is the Shanta rasa, is the later addition in it. So what are these 8 rasas and how important they are? Let us find out. First is Rati, that culminates into Shringar Rasa. We find Shringar Rasa in one of the leading work by great poet Kalidas in his Abhigyan Shakuntalam. We discussed that play in the first module, and in that play there is a very strong emotion of Rati which culminates into Shringar Rasa. Secondly, we have Hasya as the Sthai Bhava which culminates into Hasya Ras. Then Shok, that culminates into Karun Ras, Krodh into Raudra Ras, Utsah into Veer Ras, Bhay into Bhayanak Ras, Jugupsa into Bibhatsa Ras and Vismay into Adbhut Ras. These are the 8 rasa, and the later addition is Shant Rasa. Different text might have potential of different sthai bhava that might culminate into the rasa, but it depends on how the text has been written, the plot of it, the presentation of it, and enactment by actors and the nature of the audience. All these factors decides what will be the rasa, especially the nature of the text determines. Moving ahead, coming to the origin of theatre. Theatrical performance is rooted in Vedic rituals, sung and performed with specialized gestures. And the references of theatrical performances in India are found in number of texts, including the text by great grammarian Panini in around 5th or 6th century, where he talked about Natasutra, the theory of the emergence of Sanskrit theatre. Apart from it, we find the reference of Indian theatre tradition in the text, like we have great epic Ramayana. Also in Mahabharata there are references of such terms like Nat, Nati, Gayak, Nartak, and many such interpretations are there, proving that theatre tradition has been an old practice in India. Apart from these, we also find various references of theatre practices in the texts like Kautilya's Arthashastra. There are references in Maurya Empire. In Buddhist text Tripitak, Theri Gatha, we find references of theatrical practices, and also in Jatak Katha, Jatak tales, we find references of Indian tradition that suggest us that theatre in India is even older than the Greek plays. It was known to India even before Greek theatre came into existence. It has been as old as the Vedic traditions are in India. Moving ahead, the earliest form of theatre is Sanskrit theatre existing in India. And the Sanskrit theatre emerged between the 2nd century BCE to 1st century CE, which developed till 10th to 12th century, but its development was stifled due to various invasions took place in India, and the creative innovation slowed down in the medieval period. By nature, we find Sanskrit drama elite. It was patronized by kings and aristocrats. The language which was used for dialogue delivery was Sanskrit, so it was limited to a group of people who were scholarly or knower of Sanskrit as a language. Varna system was very much in existence, so Sanskrit was not known to all. The educated class, the scholarly class, and the elite class were the audience of Sanskrit theatre primarily. And especially Sanskrit theatre demanded the knowledge of the form and the expertise from the audience part to understand it. Anyone and everyone cannot understand it. The language, the form, the stylized nature of it makes it limited to a particular section or the community of the society. Due to invasion, there was interruptions, but then after some time we find revival of Sanskrit theatre as well, especially in the British colonial period. When we talk about Sanskrit theatre, there are number of prominent playwrights who have played a very important role to develop and flourish the theatre, and amongst them the first name comes of Ashwaghosh. He was the first Sanskrit playwright, but the play that he wrote is not completely available. After Ashwaghosh, we have many leading Sanskrit playwrights who are also called poet, as they wrote drama in verse, like Bhash, who is known for his masterpiece called Swapna Vasavadatta, Mahakavi Kalidas, who is known for Vikramavarshiyam and Abhigyan Shakuntalam. These are the important plays which I have mentioned here. There are other plays as well that they wrote, which will be provided to you as references. Bhash, Kalidas, and then we have Sudrak, who is known for Mrichakatika. We have Vishakadatta, known for Mudra Rakshas, and then Harsh, Bhattanarayan, Bhavabhuti, and Mahendra Vikram are some prominent Sanskrit playwrights who are not only recognized in the country but even at the global level, and their plays are well known, widely performed, and till date these plays are often performed in different platforms at different places. Moving ahead, coming to the part of analysis, let us discuss selected plays and see what are the areas covered in the Sanskrit plays in those times. How was the society? What was the structure of society? What are the primary themes being covered? What are the subject matter of those plays? And how life has been projected, the realities have been projected on stage in Sanskrit drama. Let us learn it through examples. When we see Bhash Swapna Vasavadatta, it is a play that appears to be a model based on Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. Bhash wrote 13 plays, but this one is his masterpiece. This play rebels against the conventions and establishes the play as one of the masterpieces based on Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. Another play that we will be discussing is Kalidas Vikramovarshivam. Here we find in Bhas Swapna Vasavadatta, marriage is the prominent theme and it covers the life of Kaushambi's king Udayan and his love for Vasavadatta. This important play explores love, beauty, patience, human feelings and dignity of human conducts. This play deals with different characters, and if we talk about gender norms, men and women and how they are portrayed, it's a normative projection of men and women who play their gender normative role in the text as projecting the time. In Kalidas Vikramavarshiyam, the play is based on the story of a mortal king Pururva and a divine beauty Urvashi, which deals with the inner conflict of Pururva. Kalidas Vikramavarshiyam is based on Natya Shastra, and this play in a very meticulous way deals with the human psychology, the feeling, the sentiments and the conflicts that goes on in a person's mind in the given circumstances. The human psychology is dealt with great skill by nobody else but Kalidas in this play Vikramavarshiyam. Now we come to the play that we had already discussed in the first lecture, Kalidas Abhigyan Shakuntalam. This play is based on the story taken from Mahabharata of King Dushyant and Shakuntala. It is one of the best known Sanskrit plays existing. In this play we find Shakuntala as an individual. Her representation is very strong in this play, where we find women being so strongly visible, and her trauma, her loss of love has been projected with meticulous detail. They look like human beings, so real, so true to one, and not at all as characters portrayed on the stage. The way Kalidas has projected Dushyant and Shakuntala, and even in the play, nature plays a very important role, and the meticulous description in the poetic language makes the play perfect Sanskrit drama to be seen, watched and to be canonized. Coming to Harsha's Ratnavali, this play revolves around the marriage between King Udayan and the Princess Ratnavali, and the hurdles that they face, to meet each other and to get married, and the conflicts and the struggles are covered in this play with great details. Harsha is known as one of the leading playwrights who wrote Sanskrit plays, and this play is an exemplary drama to understand how important marriage was as a theme in the plays and how it was so very important in the society as the most important aspect of an individual's life. Now, when we discuss all these plays, we see how these gender representations take place. Though we will discuss gender as a concept in detail in the coming modules, let us see how these plays take up gender roles. Normally we find in these plays the usual representation of men and women playing their gender normative role. Woman as wife or sorceress, woman as a vulnerable beloved or a seductress, men as a duty bound person or a person in search of love, he is in pursuit of it. So they are projected in certain normative roles in these plays. At the same time, we find in some writers' writings, the projection of these roles are stronger than the other. For example, Kalidas women are very strong. The projection is important here. We are talking about representation, how they are represented and how we are trying to interpret it in our times, how relevant it is for our times and how we can understand the gender normativity in the societies of those times when these writers were writing. So men and women and other gender representations are also existing in some of the folk forms, but for these Sanskrit plays, primarily we find men and women projected in a stereotypical way. A husband or a wife, a king who is seeking for love and a beloved who has lost her love. So in this way the projection is existing, or if not marriage or love be the theme, then we find historical plays or political based plays written otherwise. So these are the primary themes covered in the Sanskrit plays, but according to Srinivas Iyengar, a leading Indian scholar, Sanskrit dramas primarily covered Shringar Ras, it primarily covered love as a theme. So we see that Sanskrit theatre focuses on the popular themes as per the realities of the time, but it did not cover all the aspects of those times. Primarily we see the protagonist as the king or the elite class person represented, either the king or the prince of a land who is the hero of the text. We do not find a commoner or a person from the other caste or other sections of the society being prominently represented as a central figure in the play. So this was a brief description of Sanskrit theatre. It is more than that. We have covered very few writers to understand the basic elements of Sanskrit theatre and how it started, and the prominent figures who cannot be ignored when we talk about Sanskrit. In Natya Shastra, we find the reference of Istri Preksha and Purush Preksha, and it suggests us that at that time not only the female performers were there, but female audience, female plays were existing, at least the scripts were existing, and all female theatre is called Istri Preksha. For example, Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra talks about Lasya, where there is single female performer who performs for her female audience. Often these kinds of performances were taking place in the private spaces, sometimes inside the home or a courtyard or in any private space where a limited audience is there to watch. In Arthashastra, there is a reference of taking fine from the audience, especially the female audience who will be going to watch Stri Preksha or Purush Preksha. That further suggests us that these kinds of practices were existing. Bharat Muni also talks about many female performers, and he even named them. More than 20 female performers are there who are called Apsaras or Nati, who are named, and they were performing the plays, which means that existence of women in theatrical practices, performance of women in theatrical practices is as old as theatre existing in India. Not only they were performing, but also trying to interpret the plays, trying to select the themes as per their choice. But it was only limited to female audience, as Stri Preksha was limited for them, where women are performing and they are forming the audience as well. Beyond that, when we see how women have been represented and how they are playing certain roles in Indian tradition, it can be taken in three ways: women as writers, women as performers, and women as audience. We hardly find any name as a writer due to lack of documentation, but we have number of names given in Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, in many other texts later on also, that women were very much part of the Natya Mandalis, the theatre troupes where they used to perform as actresses. The reference of female audience also existing, though largely the male audience were there to watch these public performances or the art forms of that is performed in public, but we also have reference of female audience watching the performances privately or in such Stri Preksha where they are invited. So it is not so that it's a complete lacuna where we don't find women at all before we reach to the British colonial period. We have to see Indian theatre tradition in a different way. We cannot see it from Eurocentric perspective. It has to be seen from a different lenses in order to understand and see the existence of women, the existence of men, and other gender identities and their presence from the very beginning. There are certain problems that exist. That's why there is no knowledge of the presence of gender as a component or the element in the tradition of India. And when we go back, we see that hardly there are proper documentation of Indian tradition from gender dimension. We have number of works in the present times that had documented and talked about, well-researched works are there that talks about the origin and the tradition and the development of Indian theatre. Many researchers have contributed, but from gender dimension still there is a dearth. Few writers have made efforts in that direction, and that is why many new researches are coming out, which is making us aware of the presence of women along with men, and also the presence of other genders in different theatres, especially in folk theatres, from the very beginning of the practices in India. With these words, I stop here, and in the next module, we shall be talking about the folk theatre and the early gender representation in different types of theatre in India. Thank you so much.